the American people stand firm in the faith which has inspired this nation from the beginning. We believe that all men have a right to equal justice under law and equal opportunity to share in the common good. We believe that all men have the right to freedom of thought and expression. We believe that all men are created equal because they are created in the image of God. From this faith, we will not be moved.
Hello, God bless America, and welcome to the Freedom of Thought podcast. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Freedom of Thought is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps, but we prefer that you download and listen to this show on Spotify, because it'll help the growth of the show, and always appreciate it. If you prefer not to use it, you prefer Apple Podcasts, or something else, Audible, or anything else like that, Odyssey, anything like that. Not Audacity, but Odyssey. It's all up to you. Any app is fine. iHeartRadio, all that. But Spotify will potentially help the show. Obviously, it's kind of like climbing a mountain on a unicycle. But yeah, it kind of is what it is when it comes to that. I thank you once and always for downloading and listening to this show. I'm very happy to be back on board once again today. Jumping on probably a shorty here, just because of the sake of I'm finally in front of a fire pit again. Oh my goodness, it took way longer this year than it should have. Obviously, we had kind of a cold spring, and then it just kept raining, and then my dad got sick. So because I often come to the fire pit at my parents' house, so I often come there. Just in my apartment, I don't really have a space for a fire pit, so I own a fire pit, but it's at my parents' house, so. To suffice to say, I kind of hide in the backyard with it at times. So otherwise, I'll bring it sometimes to a park or something. But sorry for that weird personal piece of thing. It's just a nice feeling to be back in front of a fire pit again, but not on a Saturday night, a Sunday afternoon. So it's a little bit weirder. You can't see the fire as good with the sunlight, but oh well, can enjoy it nonetheless. So it's just nice to finally be in front of one. I'm not sure why it took so long this year. It must be the global warming, right? Because it was such a cold April, like the whole month of April. I remember just a couple of years ago, I was able to be out here in April and all that. So I was out here about a month earlier in 2021. I know that for a fact. And that was a fairly rainy spring. But, you know, I'm not necessarily going to come and babble on and on and on about the whole making fun of the global warming thing, though I may jump into that a tiny bit. Mostly just happy again to be in front of a fire pit, and it's kind of a simple things of life. The simple things of life. I think that's a big deal. I even kind of posted that actually on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Freedom of Thought 1776. Welcome to a few of the new people that have jumped on board fairly recently. Where is that image? It shouldn't just be on my page. I thought there was a response or two, but it's just kind of a simple type of thing. I don't know why it's not there. I wonder if somebody took it off. That's kind of weird. But, well, one other thing to learn about, I learned about today, yesterday anyway, about lamb's quarters. Apparently that's a very helpful helpful vegetable to kind of eat. That it's similar to spinach, but actually healthier and even arguably tastes better. Where a lot of people end up just throwing it away like, oh, it's just a weed in the garden. So that's something I need to learn more and more about. So it was kind of interesting, that Off the Grid podcast that I listened to from Jim Calhoun, that I've talked about that. So ad nauseum, and I'm very happy to mention that. Living Off-Grid Power and Information Podcast. That's the official name of it. But I don't know, just the joys of being outside and in front of a fire pit again. It just feels so good, and I figured I'd kind of share that with the audience here on Freedom of Thought. If you don't like the smell of firewood, I'm not sure what planet you're from, unless it's a really stinky firewood. So occasionally you get weird ones like birch and such. Sometimes like weird stuff gets in there, and yeah, that's I don't know what to think about that. It smells like burning old paper or something. That's not real pleasant. But anything kind of related to like pine or something like that, oh, it is just there's something special about it that again, that's why I oftentimes do freedom of thought while in front of the fire pit. At least I did last year quite a bit during the summer. Yeah, the spring, the summer, and even into the fall. And figured I'll do a shorty today talking about, again, the joys of being in front of a fire pit, the simple things of life. Like something like this costs maybe a few dollars to get some firewood, unless maybe you have firewood left over from a tree you cut down a while back or whatever, and you had to split the logs up a bit, all of that, and then you can enjoy it that way. Of course, you have to wait a while for the wood to dry. Oftentimes I buy it, I buy little bundles in front of Lunds and Byerly's. They have, I think, probably the best, obviously a free plug here, they have probably the best firewood out of any of the others out there, like in front of gas stations and such. Lunds and Byerly's, I believe it's called TSL. That's the company that actually does it, that does the firewood. It's generally seems to be pine wood, and my goodness, it's just so relaxing. It's just such a calming smell, such a calming vibe, and I don't know, even on a hot, humid night, I'm willing to sit in front of a fire, as long as I have a little fan next to me to kind of keep myself cool. But on a slightly chillier night, it's even better. Obviously, it just keeps you warm and it's enjoyable. But I don't know. I mean, I could do this 365 days a year if possible. Wish I had my own fireplace. A lot of you do. I know it's a pain to clean up, but I think it's just one of those types of things that, I mean, I'd have a hard time going without. And I was saying I need to, again, back to the lamb's quarters, I was saying I need to learn a lot about that. That it actually has more nutrients than spinach. So very interesting. It's had a number of nicknames and such. I'm going to have to bump around here. I thought I'd posted the image on the Facebook page, but apparently I guess it's just on my personal one. There's a person saying, how can you be happy without vast wealth, power, and, women? And then the man says, man is enslaved by luxury and vanities. He forgets that happiness is in the simple things. Dom Quixote. And yeah, I agree with that 1,000,000%. Like right here, this is a simple thing. I don't need $1 million necessarily to have a fire pit and have a little wood in it and to light it up and just kind of sit and relax in front of it. I'm very much, it doesn't take a whole lot for me to have like what I think is a nice weekend, and this kind of involves having a nice weekend, including doing a podcast or two, be it Freedom of Thought or catching up with one of my others, Timberwolves Explosion, Brave the Wild, Purple Mafia, or video game flashback, which I kind of do in small little spurts here and there, talking about retro video games if you're interested in that. Video game flashback. But yeah, I mean, again, this is kind of like that enjoy the seasons type of episodes that I've been doing, like, like the Easter one, the spring season, the beginning of spring, you got Easter. July 4th is kind of like in a lot of ways, or Memorial Weekend. That's the official beginning of summer. And then July 4th is kind of the heart of summer. Labor Day is like the end of summer, and it's heading into fall and blah, blah, blah. Halloween's like the heart of fall. Thanksgiving's kind of the start of the Christmas season, and Christmas is like, it's winter, so on and so forth. And then you get back to Easter with spring again. Valentine's Day is kind of like the heart of winter. I don't know. Even though you could argue New Year's Day is as well. But technically it's early, even though oftentimes it's very cold. Whereas in this case, again, it's just enjoying the month of May, the simple things in life, the beautiful lilaxes that are just starting to bloom. I mean, how can you not like the Lincoln lilaxes, as they call them? The purple ones, the white ones, obviously are nice. There's all different kinds. I don't know if it's because people experimented and such, like almost like a maroon colored, those are kind of around. It's also remarkable how quickly everything grew. It went from like nothing to bam, I cut my parents' yard during the week when I do the lawn service, of course, because obviously free service for them for obvious reasons. I cut this yard that I'm standing in right now 3 days ago, and it looks like it needs to be cut again. So it's like, what the heck? This was very sudden, how everything just kind of went from nothing to everything. I suppose it happens at times in the spring, but this is definitely no exception to that. Holy moly. Spring, usually the grass grows a little bit slower, doesn't it? It's a little thinner, a little slower, but it's just blowing up all over the place. I can see from a distance one of the yards I do. The front yard is looks like it got froze or literally like froze over and burned during the course of the winter. So, except for like the area closer to the street, it's a little greener. Strange. I know I'm kind of rambling on and on about minuscule things that you may or may not care about, but I don't know. It's just interesting how it's so different every single year. And I'm still longing for the spring of 2021. That was one of the best. It was the best spring in like about 9 years, approximately. So 2012 was like an all-time favorite spring. 1988 was the best of all time. But I don't know. Again, just enjoying the simple things of life, I suppose. The little seeds coming out of the trees. May is a special time of year. Everything blooms. Crabapple trees, cherry trees, apple trees. Like right now, apple trees right now in my dad's yard here. You get the white flowers, and then the neighbors have the lilac bushes. So whatever's left of a lot of them, they've been ripped up and taken away over the course of the many years. And but I guess one of these does have that maroon color. I forgot that was here. Just a tiny bit left of the purple ones, which are my favorite. It's unfortunate. They're kind of buried. Yeah, and these are the maroon colored, kind of like a raspberry, like blackberry look, maybe. Almost grape colored, actually. Interesting color. I always wonder if those are some kind of hybrid that were, bred many years ago with pollination. But who knows? What do I know? But again, sometimes it's good to just kick back, enjoy the simple things of life. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's kind of what it's all about today. And thank God that the rain is long gone from the morning now, at least in this neck of the woods, in the Golden Valley, Minnesota area. And we get a little bit of sunlight again. So, again, hope you're enjoying yourself. Hope you, we'll get more and more into good and bad conversations out there. I'm sure, obviously, the whole Russia-Ukraine situation is just still ongoing, and there's a lot of fear that it's going to eventually lead into World War III, and the fact that it's been lasting as long as it has it's probably not a good thing. It's probably not. It's a very bad sign, and how the United States has kind of secretly been, maybe not even secretly, but the United States is more involved than a lot of us want to admit and want to believe, and it's not a good thing. One thing can lead to another, and then before you know it, everything just, goes absolutely nuts. That's oftentimes how things go. So, I'm sorry for talking about that. But again, I hope you're having a wonderful month of May. I'll probably have another show up anytime as soon as next weekend, or something comes up during the week. I might pop on for a shorty, mobile show like this one, or, otherwise the Memorial Day weekend, I'm very likely going to do something. Very likely to do something. I had that very interesting show a year ago, and I encourage you to check it out if you haven't. Familiar spirits in honoring Memorial Day veterans and all that. So do check that one out. It was a very interesting show, I think, and I think it can provide very interesting information for you out there that may or may not have knowledge of what really is going on out there when it comes to familiar spirits. So, don't be fooled by them. That's the whole trick, or that's the whole key. Have yourself a merry little month of May, and we'll talk to you soon. Also, I might as well say one more time, as I always like to end the show with, God bless the United States of America.